Which Big 12 team is the most valuable to TV networks, and is it actually West Virginia? This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I am Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Today, we cover which Big 12 team is the most valuable in the league, according to TV networks. We'll also go through how the Big 12 media didn't exactly get the poll right. We'll analyze that further with Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football. We'll also cover, can Colorado win the Big 12? People are saying yes. That is confusing. Off the riff here, C.W. Lambert, who is a Big 12 source who is very active on Twitter, actually posted a list that he says, you want inside information? Here's legit insider information from a third party who analyzes an extensive array of data to value college football programs for ESPN and Fox. Going on to say the list that he has built is based on data provided by ESPN and Fox for analysis, and he is lucky he was able to have the list. Let's go through it. This, again, according to C.W. Lambert, ranks how Big 12 teams are viewed by ESPN and Fox. It also views other schools across the country. And the first thing we point out, especially for those who are listening only on audio on Spotify or Apple Podcast, is West Virginia is the most valuable Big 12 school, listed here at 21 in the country, above South Carolina, Arkansas, Ole Miss, even above Miami, Washington, and Oregon for how TV networks will value schools. What we know about Big 12 expansion, the SEC, the Big 10, all of the buzzwords that have gone around over the course of the last year is that it is TV revenue that drives these conferences and their decisions in expansion. West Virginia being a very big play in TV revenue is something that I question. Now, I don't think West Virginia is a bad brand whatsoever. I do think they add a lot to the Big 12, but we're talking about a school that even 15 years ago wasn't Power 5. We're talking about a school that's had to build its brand in the last decade and has had a tumultuous last 5 years in football. Do they still bring a top 25? A top 25 viewership threshold at West Virginia? Do they still bring it more than other Big 12 schools like Oklahoma State at 32, Texas Tech at 33? I don't know. TCU at 38, if you can confidently say that. BYU comes in at number 41, while Utah is number 39, other Big 12 representatives. And you see a very large swath of Big 12 schools in that 30 to 40 range, 30 to 45 range. Iowa State also shows up there, a couple of spots behind BYU. And then where it really gets hairy for the conference, again, this list per C.W. Lambert on Twitter, is that back half where Baylor shows up. Then you see Kansas State, who is below Baylor. Baylor's at 47, behind Indiana. If Utah goes 7-5 in the Big 12 this year, their fans will make excuses. If Baylor goes 4-8 in the Big 12, if BYU goes 4-8, the school fan bases do is they make excuses. West Virginia doesn't often make excuses. They move on. They want to go to the next. They want to win. It's a passionate fan base that wants. I don't think they would lie to you in saying, I'm not sure a lot of West Virginia fans, they believe that's actually the best brand in the Big 12 when it comes to TV viewership and coverage. When ESPN and Fox say, oh, who would you draft out of the Big 12? That West Virginia is number one, especially when a Texas Tech or an Oklahoma State are right behind them, or like a Dallas-Fort Worth metro school like TCU or a big state school like Utah. Or to me, I think truly that BYU is the most valuable school in the Big 12 from a TV viewership standpoint. You go like, oh, well, this guy's just blonde hair, blue-eyed BYU homer. No, let's think about this. One of the fastest growing religions, faiths in the entire world is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is exploding across not just America, but the world. You don't think that has some sort of TV grasp in every single market? And I get that it's not like an Ohio State or a Michigan school is not, it doesn't have that kind of brand power across the country athletically, but it certainly does from an eyeball standpoint. I mean, I was there for conference weekend this last year, and there were 1 million people watching BYU Sports Game Day. And I got to come on and put the helmet on and hold up the, I get to go on a show that 1 million people were watching live because BYU has that kind of following. I struggle to have them behind a Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. I struggle to think that West Virginia is 20 spots better than BYU from a TV brand standpoint. Top 5 here, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Notre Dame, and LSU. I got questions. We're going to go Ohio State and Michigan. Do you think the networks, I know NBC is a big play here. Do you think the networks really value those two schools that are so similar at 1 and 2 over Texas? Over a perennial powerhouse like in Alabama? Do we really think that Clemson, who couldn't make more athletic revenue off of football than Bowling Green 15 years ago, actually deserves to be a top 15 team to ESPN and Fox? You really think that Florida's outside the top 10? That there's no Florida school inside the top 10 here? I'm not sure that I can buy that currently. I just don't think I can. Is the Big 12 in a bad spot from a TV viewership standpoint? Sure, for sure. They're bad enough to only have one team in the top 30. What was it? Top 32? Top 31? No, I don't think so. And is that school West Virginia? West Virginia's good. I like them, but I don't know if it's number one in the Big 12. Coming up, Big 12 media. This poll. Some poll takes from Spencer McLaughlin on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is where I go to buy tickets all of the time because at Game Time, I don't have to worry about the ticket buying process. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time go down the closer you get to first pitch. Right now, I can go buy Texas Ranger tickets because they suck for like $15. I can go see the Atlanta Braves for a little bit more than $15, but with Game Time, last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, you can find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of game you want to go to in your area. Those last second deals, up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. And Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find lower ticket costs somewhere else. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. That is guaranteed.
Big 12 preseason media poll is out. I've got a hot take for you because that is Drake Toll Locked On Big 12. My hot take, Drake, is that Arizona and UCF are going to win the same number of games. How do you react to that?
I think that UCF at 8 could be a school that finishes at 4. I think the Arizona at 5 could be a school that finishes at 8. I have a very strong opinion that Arizona in year 1 under a new regime and still keeping a good core of their roster together. T-Mac namely, I don't know if he is the big conversation. T-Mac may be the most explosive receiver coming into the Big 12 next year. I think that Arizona still has a whole lot more to prove than Utah under Kyle Whittingham, and that will be reflected in their record. Them having the same record as UCF is not that shocking to me because I think UCF, the recruiting hotbed, where they Gus Malzahn, a guy who has won national championships as an OC, been as a head coach, has KJ Jefferson, an SEC caliber quarterback that at one time felt like a top 3 arm or at least top 3 weapon in that league at the quarterback position, who fizzled out last year under Dan Enos. There's lore there that if he can get the best of KJ Jefferson out of him, he's a top 3 quarterback in a good QB class in the Big 12 this season. I like where UCF sits. They have, to me, a very high ceiling for where the Big 12 put them at 8. I think Texas Tech is kind of in the same range there with, they're at 9. They could finish at 4, and I wouldn't be shocked. Give me a yes. What was it? A C or no? They used to do on. Give me a C for UCF and Arizona. Could very well finish with the same record. I can't push back on that.
Yeah, so I think this media poll is so interesting because you look at it and like Colorado is at 11, or UCF is at 8, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. And then you look at the teams that are ahead of them, and you're going, wait a minute. Who are you just like automatically putting X team in front? Like Texas Tech is lower than you would think for a team that has dark horse Big 12 championship aspirations, and I think realistically so. You have a young, talented quarterback with a now somewhat experienced head coach in that environment. You have that quarterback has starting experience, and this is going to be his first chance to take the reins for the entire season. And that's a lot different than what you have with a lot of young quarterbacks across the country where, Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee, for instance, or Jackson Arnold, they've played one game. Baron Morton has seen college football action. He's not going to be brand new to it. But then when you look at Texas Tech, and I like the transfer portal offseason that Texas Tech has had this year, I think they brought in some really, really nice pieces. I look at who's above and I'm like, well, wait a minute. am I just automatically jumping them over Arizona? Am I automatically dropping down Iowa State? I don't know, kind of like Iowa State. I mean, goodness gracious, I almost feel trepid in saying anything bad about Iowa State, lest Josh Pate figure out that I said it and I get doxxed publicly on his show. So he wouldn't actually do that, at least I don't think. But that's where I come back to. This conference is the deepest in the country for its conference championship run. It's not the deepest for the number of playoff teams. I think it's a one bid league. It's not the deepest for the number of top 10 capable programs or teams this year. But this conference championship race is the most open to me. And that was the second thing that I thought when I saw the Big 12 preseason media poll.
Yeah, here's something that I've been telling a lot of people, and I don't believe that I can overstate this. I know that you, Jim, in Des Moines really love your college football, and you love that Iowa is in the Big Ten, and that you don't have to deal with the Big 12 like Iowa State does, ha, 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 point and laugh. Well, guess what? When you paid rent last week, when you bought that new TV because your old TV got struck by lightning and the warranty was out of whack, you didn't use the money that Iowa got for being in the Big Ten. You don't get like, oh, wow, my school is going to a new conference. We're going to make way more money. If Oklahoma goes 7-5 this season, you didn't see a dime out of that, and your viewing experience was worse than it would have been going 11-1, going to Arlington and winning a Big 12 championship. That is what I, as a fan of college football, want. Now, us as analysts, we get to talk about the ins and outs, the TV deals, and the revenue. But if you are a casual viewer here and you're going, ha ha ha, I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm a Mississippi State fan, we're in the SEC, sucks for you. Your viewing experience going 5-7 sucks. I would rather be West Virginia with the idea you can go 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, and win any given weekend. Have a hyper-competitive conference. Now, as we know, parity does not sell. People do not watch these games. If Cincinnati somehow goes...
I do. I will be watching these games. You'll be watching these games.
I am the sicko that if we turn around in week... we'll call it like week 10, and Arizona State's playing against week 11. Arizona State's playing BYU, and they're both 7-win teams at that point. Like, I have vested interest in that. I can't wait. Everybody else in the country is going, oh, Arizona State, BYU. They don't really care. But I'm the sicko that's signing up for like, oh, wow, which of these two teams could be last year's West Virginia? And for me, Spencer, what that does for this league is gives an entertaining product every weekend. Anyway, I could legitimately see West Virginia go out and beat a team of the caliber of a Utah or Oklahoma State by 15 one weekend, and the next weekend come out and lose to an Iowa State by 21. And you go, yeah, well, that's the Big 12. And I don't think that's a bad thing for fans of the Big 12.
I'm glad you brought up Oklahoma State, because I think them and Arizona are the two teams that, you know, if I were to reshuffle, if they gave me a vote for the Big 12 preseason media poll, which they didn't, kind of hurtful, but that's okay. If I had one, those are two teams that I felt might be a touch high for different reasons. Arizona, new coaching staff and a roster that is not at the same level where it was a year ago, has a decent core, but it's just has lost a lot of starters, and I don't know that I'm in love with what they've brought in, and I don't know what Brent Brennan can do against Power 4 head coaching. There are a lot of really, really good coaches in the Big 12. And then I look at Oklahoma State and incredibly high floor. I mean, them in Utah, you talk about high floor programs, like incapable of bottoming out. Those two teams, as long as those two head coaches are there, and the Kyle Whittingham news, we're not getting to that today, but that's a whole other ordeal. Oklahoma State with Alan Bowman at quarterback, though.
Yeah.
Like that was the other team. I felt okay. Maybe they would go down a couple slots, because this is, to me, the deepest quarterback conference in the country. And if you're rolling with Bowman there, I'm just like, I can't get behind you there. Like, I know they proved people wrong last year and played for the conference championship game. Yeah. And then in that game, we saw how far away they actually were from being a conference title contender.
I get it. We can't go play the quarterback battle where you go, well, Colorado's got a better quarterback than Oklahoma State. They must be a better team. Colorado has the best overall player in the Big 12 in Travis Hunter, because he makes up two positions and is a freak athlete, and possibly the best quarterback in the country in Shedeur Sanders this season. That doesn't make Colorado a Big 12 championship contender. But to me, it makes them more dangerous when you talk, where could that ceiling be if those two guys get, how much of an impact can they make in the Big 12? Alan Bowman is not that. He took a hiatus from college football for 2 years to go be an on-field coach at Michigan. He was never a quarterback at Michigan. He just stood there with a helmet and a clipboard and helped anybody else who was actually the quarterback at Michigan.
His mastery of offensive schemes and X's and O's has to be higher than any other quarterback, and that's a non-zero part of playing the position. I'll grant him that.
It's true. And age is a factor here for Bowman, who's 27 now. And the idea of bringing him in Oklahoma State was not for him to start. It was, we've got 3 guys who are going to rotate until we get our ish rocked by South Alabama, and then we probably got to figure this one out. They elect Bowman quarterback, and he's just safe. He's the safe option. He's like the Big 12's version of A.J. McCarron, where you're like, yeah, he's not going to blow you away. He's just kind of going to go out there and do. And maybe he'll be a really good asset in the UFL one day. That seems like Alan Bowman's career path here.
Can we pick a quarterback that
hasn't won a national championship? He's the Big 12's, the Big 12 version of the truck stop A.J. McCarron. It's Alan Bowman.
I mean, I still watched A.J. McCarron in college growing up and thought, yeah, I'd take him as my team's backup quarterback. I do not feel that way about Alan Bowman.
So the teams that are around Oklahoma State, from Cam Rising to Avery Johnson, and from Fafita to Daniels to even Rocco Becht or Garrett Green or KJ Jefferson or Baron Morton, or that list kind of goes on.
It's loaded. It's so good.
Yeah. Even Garrett Green's freaking solid. And then you go to Colorado with Shadur Sanders at 11. Baylor's got Daquan Finn, who was the MAC Player of the Year and start out at the Manning thing or whatever they did. Like I still think I take Daquan Finn based off his film than, run-of-the-mill Alan Bowman. And maybe I'm not giving Alan Bowman enough credit here. Sorry, Oklahoma State. But if your quarterback determines your ceiling, and sometimes that's the case in a deep quarterback conference, don't like that for the Cowboys.
I think your quarterback can both set your floor. In the case of Arizona, it can also limit your ceiling in the case of Oklahoma State. Yep. So, do you have a 10-second reaction to Colorado being 11th?
Good. They're not better than TCU, not better than Texas Tech, and they are better than Baylor, Cincinnati, Houston. Cool.
11th. I think it's a little bit low. Drake Toll locked on Big 12.
You're 10 seconds. Who you going to put them above? TCU, Texas Tech?
TCU, yes. Probably just TCU.
Yeah, all right. 10. Good for you. Oh, you got them. Wow, good thing you didn't vote. Man, really want to change things.
Well, I might have had some other teams. I might have had some other teams lower, but UCF was ahead of them too, right?
Yeah.
You could vote Colorado ahead of UCF. I wouldn't think it's necessarily insane or crazy. Kind of like every segment we've ever done together.
Revoke your credentials. That's fine.
Okay. Well, I'd have to get a credential first. Drake Toll locked on Big 12. Appreciate it.
Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12. Let's chat a little bit of Colorado. What was your immediate reaction to them being ranked second overall in the Big 12 in the new EA Sports video game?
Shocks, quite frankly, TJ, because everyone in America that has followed Colorado in their offseason has picked them at the very low end of the Big 12 conference and struggled with whether or not they would make a bowl game. I think their game against Nebraska is going to be huge for which of those two teams actually gets the postseason. I think the loser, who will likely be Colorado, will not play in a bowl game. And while I sit here and say, I think the chances that that team in Boulder gets to the postseason are slim, EA Sports says that's a top 16 team in America, sitting right at 16 with one of the best offenses and defenses in the country. What this shows me is the reporters who watched Colorado last year, the media, the fans, everybody who could see what's going on at Colorado, they know this team kind of fell apart at the seams to the point where their head coach's son was on his Instagram story begging other players to transfer in. EA Sports said, look, 24/7 says that Colorado has a bunch of 4 and 5 stars. We should make them the second best team in the Big 12. There's a flaw in the video game there that does not directly correlate to how good Colorado is going to be this season.
It feels like Colorado has, like you just mentioned, 247 ratings. Oh, yeah. Obviously, probably the best player in the game in Travis Hunter. Obviously, it's hard to quantify quarterback versus other positions, but a really elite player, a really good quarterback, which obviously factors in a lot. I guess I can understand from a player perspective. I don't know that they have the depth there, but the things that I think aren't measured as well in a video game are just the way your team plays together. Like, I guess I still think it's too high, but I almost can understand it, especially offensively. Now, defensively, I've got some questions because offensively, like, they weren't super efficient, but they did put up a lot of points. They did put up a lot of yards. Like, if that's how you want to look, I can almost understand offensively. Defensively, I got a lot of questions. But again, all that aside, I guess I can understand it from a talent perspective, but just not how the team plays together, how they operate, not to call out Coach Prime, but the coaching aspect and the coordinator aspect. But how do you factor those things into a ratings only thing? And so I don't know. I guess that's kind of the grace that I try to give EA with it is like, well, it is just on the players. And then we've seen ultra talented teams in a lot of sports fail and not know how to play together. I still think it's too high, but that's kind of the way that I've had to lie to myself and explain it to myself in my mind.
Kind of hit the nail on the head here with if you go to let's say the Florida State roster, or you go to the Utah State roster, right? How do I take that 2-star guy or that 4-star guy and rate him vastly different from the other 2-star guy or 4-star guy, especially if they're transferring from school to school or they are a highly rated recruit coming out of high school? You can't say, hey, this is a 3-star at Colorado, he's going to be a 75. This is a 3-star at Florida State, he's going to be an 84. We can't do that. So I understand why, as a video game company, you got to go, well, shoot, based on their roster on paper, we kind of got to do this. But then when I see that they are the number 20 team in the country defensively, number 8 offensively, I get it. They have maybe the best offensive player in the country, maybe eventually the best defensive player in the country with the way that Travis Hunter is able to cover the field and just make things happen. However, those two guys can't run an entire football team, and I don't believe that a school who has over-under win total of 5.5 games could be considered as an actual top 20 team in real life. Like this is going to clearly create a distinction between real life and EA Sports video game. And what you can't really factor into that ranking is that Colorado is playing AAU football right now. There's a revolving door of players coming in and out. We saw that it didn't really work last year. I don't think they'll be complete cheeks, as the kids are saying nowadays, but I do think that they are a 6-7 win team. Again, they'll struggle to get to the postseason, and EA's ranking doesn't reflect that, and I get why it doesn't.
Yeah, what I'm interested to see is what the coaching skill trees look like, right? I think Florida State is rated a little bit lower than where they're actually going to be this year. I think their offense was like 23rd. And I think that Florida State has a better offense than the 23rd best offense in the country. But I'm okay with those ratings because I know that Mike Norvell will coach them up better. He'll develop them better. And he's got a more innovative offense than most programs have, right? And so that will raise their level. Well, what does Coach Prime's and these coordinators' skill trees look like? Does it somewhat lower where they're at to get them to their rating? So, okay, voted 11th, though, just this week by the media. So we're the other way. Is that too low, or is that where you'd have them?
I think you're in a square spot at 11. I mean, they're still below TCU. They're below Texas Tech. I think those are better rosters, better teams going into 2024. Glad that they're so far below West Virginia and Iowa State, who return, in essence, their entire rosters. Oklahoma State's in the same boat there. The contributors in the Big 12, the top teams in the Big 12, from Kansas State to Utah to Arizona to Oklahoma State, those schools, have a roster, and the all Big 12 preseason team reflected that could very well win the conference. Colorado is so far behind those schools, and they're still ahead of Cincinnati. They're still ahead of Baylor. I don't think they're the worst school in the Big 12, but 11 feels appropriate. I still don't have the confidence to put a Colorado team that was 4-8 last year above a TCU team that's just a year removed from going to the national championship game and beating Michigan in the college football playoff. I can't put them over year 3, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, who has recruited with the best of them in the Big 12 for the last couple of seasons. Again, no qualms with having that school above a Baylor, above a Cincinnati, even above a BYU, and that's because the talent disparity. Colorado's much more talented on paper than BYU or Houston. But TCU is where I draw the line. I think the Big 12 media got it right here.
The thing that I think is tough for them is kind of what's tough and been tough for the Lakers the last few years is just because you're down doesn't mean that teams are going to take it easy on you. And 100%. You have that brand, and not that Colorado's like this amazing brand that just.
But Dion is. I think Dion brings that brand. Yeah.
So I think what makes it tough for them is they also get everyone's best shot, right?
Yep.
You know, if you said Colorado's skill level is comparable to, nobody's getting up for TCU like that. Nobody's getting up for Texas Tech like that. You know, unless there's a rivalry or whatever. Nobody's getting up for Baylor like that. Yep. On any given Saturday. Everybody wants to beat Colorado because of the media that comes with it. You know, the just the aura that is Travis Hunter and Shiloh and Shador and Coach Prime. So I think that makes it even tougher. No one sleeps on Colorado. Nobody takes them lightly. Colorado State should not have been close to them last year.
Right.
Arizona State should not have been close to them last year. And they lost some games that they shouldn't. And so, yeah, I think that makes it even tougher this year. I don't think teams are intimidated to play them. I think they're up for it pretty big.
You put a target on your back. You know, if you mentioned it, for TCU or a Texas Tech, schools that have a lot of respect, nobody's walking into that going, we're about to beat the TikTok darlings. We're about to beat this loudmouth coach. There are schools, like even Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, he doesn't necessarily have a target because a lot of those kids see his tweets and go, that's funny. I wish that my head coach would, you know, retweet pictures of pretty college girls. Kiffin, he plays the line. Deion does not. He walks into a room and says, I don't know how to read this room, and then just starts saying stuff. And that it gives fuel for Dan Lanning last year to look at the locker room and go, hey, I don't need a pregame speech. He just gave you one. Let's go kill these guys because they are the just jackasses of college football, pardon. But that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Nobody. You think about like where they rank too, like in most hated teams, right? Like you think about like what teams are most hated. Well, Ohio State and Notre Dame just because of who they've been forever, right? Georgia, Alabama because they're good. There's some weird ones like maybe A&M and others that you're just like,
but none of those are 4-8, you know?
Yeah. And you think like Colorado's up there with all them, maybe higher. Like who's the most hated team in college football? Right or wrong, Colorado's up there. I don't know that they're number one. If you asked any given player, like, would you rather beat Colorado this year or would you rather beat Georgia? I don't know. I think you're going to have a lot of answers that say both. I think you're going to have a pretty split crowd, though. So, Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find you? Where can they hear you more?
At LO Big 12 on Twitter, Locked On Big 12, wherever you get your podcasts, or right here on YouTube. TJ, it's always a pleasure.